Hi there, and in this video we're going to delve into and explore the answer to the question, why is hitting a baseball so hard? Hitting a baseball is considered one of the most difficult things to do in all of sports. It is an area where the greatest of all time fail over 60% of the time. That speaks to just how difficult of a thing hitting a baseball really is. So we'll talk about that in this video. So first thing we'll talk about in here is actually the physics of pitching. So fastball and other pitches as well, but we're going to kind of focus on the fastball and what that means in terms of also reaction time of hitters. We'll be talking about that, being able to make a decision really quickly and then send your body into the ideal swing, right? Which is the next thing we'll talk about, and how that ideal swing is going to be so important in order to be able to hit a ball consistently well. And
you skipped one. It goes physics of the fastball, pitch recognition, and then mechanics of the perfect swing.
The first part of this video, we're going to be talking about the physics of the fastball, physics of pitching, right? With how the ball coming into the hitter impacts the ability or the difficulty of being able to get a hit and hitting a baseball. Then we're going to be talking about the idea of pitch recognition, because pitchers do different things with a ball. They make it move differently. So being able to recognize what that is crucial to be able to hit a ball well. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about how all that is going to be factored into the actual swing again, and the beauty, athletic skill of the swing, and why it is so hard to hit a ball consistently and consistently well. So we're going to be talking about the importance of the mental aspect of the game, and where state management and being in that flow state is so vital and important in being able to hit a ball well. And of course, lastly, we're going to be talking about real life examples, but in this case, it's not going to be an individual person. We're going to be talking about the average of the greatest players who ever played the game. So one of the great challenges of the hitter is reaction time. And this is one reason why hitting a baseball today is probably harder than it was back in the 1920s, in that pitchers are stronger, bigger, can throw harder on average than guys 100 years ago, simply because we understand the mechanics of the fastball, the physics of the fastball, and the other pitches much better than we did back then. But if you're throwing 100 miles an hour, you got about, as a hitter, you've got about 4/100ths of a second to swing. Your brain takes about 1/100th to 200th of a second, somewhere in that range, to make the decision, to process what it's seen coming at it. So that doesn't leave much time to actually initiate the swing. And that's what hitters are facing today. Also, that fastball isn't always straight. That fastball will move. The physics, the way pitchers grip the ball with the threads of the ball, and the way they might put pressure on their fingers, will cause that ball to move differently. It might sink. It might move away from you or in on you. So not only do you have to recognize the pitch, but you also need to be able to react quickly. So pitch recognition. Coming out of that pitcher's hand, you need to be able to recognize the spin on the ball in order to be able to have a better idea the plane that pitch is going to take and how hard it's actually coming in, because the spin will help determine that. So we aren't necessarily talking about you actually seeing the threads move. What you really end up seeing, according to Wade Boggs, one of the great hitters who ever played the game, is what you really end up seeing is the color. Now that makes a lot of sense from a purely biological standpoint. You're going to see the color much quickly. So what is he talking about there? What he's talking about is that fastball grip is typically going to be such that you will see more white and less red. The threads of a baseball are red. When they are throwing things like cutters and sliders and curveballs, you're going to see more red. To the extent of that will tell you whether it's like a slider, a cutter, a curveball, because the tighter the spin, the faster the break, the shorter the break, the harder it is to read it, the more white you see, right? While the bigger the break and the slower the break, the more red you tend to see. There are pitches such as like split fingers fastballs that tend to tumble more, so you tend to see the red, white, that sort of aspect. But that all has to be done like within 1/100th of a second from the time it leaves the pitcher's hand. So that's not much distance. So not only do you need to recognize the type of pitch so you have a better idea of the plane the pitch is going to be on, you need to recognize location, because you don't want to swing at a pitch, especially if you don't have any strikes on you yet, that really isn't a good pitch for you to hit hard. It might be a strike, but if it's not your strike, you need to let it go. So all of these factors are playing into this idea of pitch recognition, so you can then initiate the swing. So your brain has now seen, is recognized, you see that as a fastball, and it looks like it's heading into your zone. You now need to initiate your swing, and that swing incorporates the entire use of your body. From the core, the hips rotating and moving, to the legs, which help drive that rotation and pushing off, to your chest and shoulders, arms and hands, all moving in sync in a coordinated effort to move the head of the bat, which is somewhere roughly 32 inches to 34 inches away from your hands, to be on plane with a ball that's moving in at 95 to 100 miles an hour for a Major League fastball, on a plane that's going to be partly unique to the pitcher, his height and where he's actually releasing the ball from, so that you have the best chance to get a hit. That is incredibly difficult to do. That swing mechanics, that athleticism of a powerful swing is really one of the hardest things to develop in all of sports. And when you can do those rotational mechanics well, there's so many other sports that you can do well at. So to encompass all of this, you not only have to have the physical talents, that eye-hand coordination, which is to a certain extent genetic, fast twitch muscles that allow you to rotate real quickly, that's to a certain extent genetic, right? Your actual eyesight, your actual vision, which to a certain extent is genetic, right? So genetics will play in part of this, but ultimately, one of the ultimate differences as your natural athleticism plays out, and there have been some really good athletes who've never been able to really play baseball well. Michael Jordan, I'll use as an example, who left playing the NBA to try his hand at minor league baseball. Because of the difficult nature of it and the importance of the mind and being able to get into that flow state where you slow the game down. Athletes in every sport talk about slowing the game down. There's no sport, I don't believe, where that's more important than baseball, or hitting a baseball in particular, because of the speed that ball's coming at. And when you can slow that game down and make that ball appear bigger, you have a better chance of driving your swing to be on time, in rhythm, and on plane. So that aspect of it, that mental side, and then studying the pictures, because every picture is a little bit different. So be able to keep a mental book. And yes, modern days, they have all the video data, they have all of that, but ultimately, you're taking all that external data and you're going to be putting it into your unconscious mind in order to be able to drive your swing unconsciously, the picture recognition unconsciously, and that's all the mental side of the game. Real life, let's talk about being in the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame are the greatest players who've ever played the game. Baseball's been played professionally in this country for 150 years. And the average, roughly, batting average, and again, the batting average is a pretty common old statistic. It's been around since the beginning. That indicates how good of a hitter you were. The higher the batting average, the more likely I'd be in the Hall of Fame. So the average Hall of Famer has got roughly a 300 batting average. That means 3 times out of 10, they're getting a hit. 3 times out, that means they're not getting a hit, they're making an out. Their objective is to get on base. So being able to get a hit is how you get on base, being able to get a walk as well. And that all is based on all those things we just talked about, but they're failing at that 78% of the time. 60% for the really elite guys. That's how much they're still failing. And these are the best who ever played the game. That is all a factor of all those other things, and it explains why hitting a baseball is so hard. I encourage you to subscribe to our channel and check out all the other videos. We're adding more all the time. We have videos on a variety of topics, and those topics are changing all the time as we go through all the questions that we get. But you might be particularly interested in checking out the video, How to Hit a Home Run in Baseball. So check that video out today, and I'll see you in the next one.